Okay, so get ready because today we are diving deep into the world of roller derby. You guys wanted to know more about uh, how this sport evolved, why people find it so captivating, and like what the whole blood, sweat, and mascara thing is all about.
Yeah, that phrase, it really does sum it up, doesn't it? There are so many layers to roller derby. I think that is what makes it so fascinating.
Right. On the one hand, it's like a full contact sport on roller skates
Yeah,
with jammers trying to score points
yeah,
and blockers, both playing offense and defense at the same time. It's the visual spectacle for
yeah.
sure. And things can get pretty intense out there.
Absolutely. The sources you sent me, they actually describe some pretty hard falls and spills, not to mention the intense training these athletes have to go through. It makes sense where the whole blood and sweat thing comes from.
Yeah.
This is a serious sport. You need both physical and mental toughness.
Yeah. But then you got the mascara element,
Yeah.
which adds like a whole other dimension to it all. The colorful uniforms, the makeup, the creative names they come up with.
Right.
It's like performance art mixed with athletic competition.
It's almost like they're like reclaiming femininity and strength at the same time. Like, hey, we can be tough and athletic, but also expressive. It really challenges how people think female athletes should look and act.
It's empowering.
Yeah.
Speaking of challenging expectations, did you know that roller derby didn't start out this way? Like at all.
Yeah.
It actually began as endurance racing. Back in the 1930s, the first official match was in Chicago, 1935. And it was all about skating for hours on end. Nothing like the fast-paced action we see today.
Yeah, it's pretty different from the modern game. But then in 1939, this sports writer named Damon Runyon, he suggested adding physical contact. And, that's how roller derby as we know it started to take shape.
Wow. It's crazy how one suggestion can like completely change a sport.
Mm.
And from there, roller derby really took off the 1940s and 50s. That was its golden age. Televised matches, huge crowds.
Yeah, they were really pioneers, like early sports entertainment.
Totally. They captivated audiences with their athleticism and showmanship.
It makes you think about why roller derby was so popular back then, after World War II. There was this cultural shift. People wanted excitement, entertainment, and I think roller derby gave them that. It was also a time when women were stepping into new roles.
Yeah.
And I think these athletes, they were really powerful symbols of that.
It's amazing. They were like reality TV pioneers decades before. The
Yeah.
Real Housewives even existed. But
Yeah.
that popularity came at a cost
Sure.
as roller derby grew. It started to become more about theatrics, scripted outcomes, exaggerated rivalries. It became more about the show
Yeah.
than the sport itself.
And that's where a lot of the misconceptions about roller derby come from. People saw the staged fights and they thought that's all it was. It lost some legitimacy and it started to decline in popularity.
Yeah, it's like if you only watch professional wrestling,
Yeah.
you might think that all fighting is fake.
Right.
But that doesn't mean there isn't skill and athleticism involved.
Exactly. And unfortunately, those misconceptions about roller derby, they kind of lingered for decades.
But roller derby didn't die. It kind of went underground for a bit. And then, in the early 2000s, boom, it came back with this like incredible grassroots revival. The Texas Roller Girls were really big in that movement.
It's like a phoenix rising from the ashes that took away all the theatrics, focused on the athleticism and the skill,
Right.
and built this amazing community of women.
Yeah, you can feel the energy shift. Like these women were taking the sport back,
Yeah.
making it their own. They also ditched the bank track and moved to a flat track format.
That was a big change. It made it a lot easier to form new leagues. You didn't need a special venue anymore. You could set up a track anywhere, a parking lot, a warehouse. It made roller derby a lot more accessible.
And that helped the sport grow like crazy. By 2020, there were over 2,000 leagues all over the world.
It's amazing. It shows the power of grassroots movements and how appealing a sport can be when it challenges the status quo.
So true. And speaking of challenging the status quo, modern roller derby is all about inclusivity.
Yeah.
And it's not just talk.
Yeah.
The Women's Flat Track Derby Association,
Yeah.
the WFTDA, they have guidelines for female leadership,
Mhm.
and they've created this really welcoming environment.
Yeah. For people of all genders, body types, and backgrounds.
Amazing. Okay, so we've talked about the blood and sweat, the physicality and the athleticism, but let's talk about the mascara part, the self-expression. That makes it so visually captivating.
I think it really embodies the culture of roller derby.
Huh.
They're out there competing, pushing themselves to the limit, but they're doing it with style, with flair. You don't really see that in other sports.
Yeah, it's amazing. They're out there battling it out
Yeah.
and still rocking these awesome looks. It's this mix of fierce competition and like unapologetic self-expression. They're owning their power. It's inspiring.
And it's that defiance that makes roller derby so empowering. It celebrates all kinds of strength, physical, emotional, and creative. It's like they're saying, we're not going to fit into your mold. We're going to be ourselves.
I love that. And it's not just about the skaters. It's about the community. These leagues are run by the skaters themselves. There's a real sense of ownership.
Yeah, for sure. They organize the events. They raise money for charities. They've created these spaces
Yeah.
where everyone feels welcome.
It's a great example of how sports can be a force for good. Okay, but we can't talk about roller derby without talking about rollerball. That movie from 1975. It was entertaining, but it gave a really distorted picture of the sport.
Yeah, rollerball was super violent, really dystopian. It definitely had an impact on how people saw roller derby. It reinforced this idea
Yeah,
that it's all about brutality and spectacle.
right. It's like trying to understand chess by watching an action movie.
Yeah, you might see some of the moves, but you're missing the strategy. The psychology of rollerball played into those misconceptions, and it made it hard for people to see the real skill and athleticism. It's a shame, because it undermined the leagues that were trying to rebuild the sport.
I know. It's frustrating. But I guess it makes sense. People see a flashy, violent movie, and it sticks with them. That's why it's important to talk about. What really happened to roller derby back in the 60s and 70s? Why did it decline so much?
Well, there are a few reasons. One was overexposure. Roller derby was on TV all the time, which was good at first, but then people got tired of it.
Too much of a good thing.
Exactly. And then there were financial troubles. Costs were going up, revenue was going down. Because of the oil crisis and other things, running a sports league is expensive.
Yeah, and there were internal problems too. Leadership changes, unionization efforts.
Yeah, things were messy. It made it hard to adapt.
So it was like a perfect storm.
Pretty much.
Overexposure, money problems, internal conflicts. And then new sports and entertainment options were popping up.
It's not surprising that roller derby struggled, but it makes a resurgence even more impressive.
I agree. It shows how strong the sport really is. It survived all of that.
It did. It had this core strength, this appeal.
Yeah.
That helped it overcome all those challenges.
Yeah. It was fueled by the passion of the athletes, the sense of community, the pure joy of the sport.
It's a pretty remarkable story.
It really is. It makes you think about what we can learn from it. What makes roller derby so resilient?
I think one of the biggest things is that it's always reinventing itself. Roller derby went through a lot, but it never gave up. It adapted, it changed, and it found new ways to succeed. I think that's something we can all learn from.
Totally. Whether it's your career,
Yeah.
your personal life, or just dealing with change in general, being able to adapt is so important.
And then there's the community aspect. Roller derby is all about belonging, supporting each other, sharing this passion. It's more than just a sport, it's a family. And I think that's something we all need.
Yeah, especially these days. It's like finding your tribe, people who get you, who support you, who celebrate who you are.
Yeah, roller derby is great at that. It also teaches us about self-expression. These athletes are unapologetically themselves, on and off the track. They embrace who they are, their creativity, their strength. They don't try to fit in, they just are who they are.
It's so cool. It's like they're saying, screw your expectations.
Yeah.
It's empowering, seeing them own their power
Yeah,
and their uniqueness.
definitely. And that message,
Ah.
it goes way beyond roller derby.
Okay, so where does roller derby go from here? What does the future hold?
Well, that's the exciting part. We don't know, but I think it's going to be awesome. It's growing all over the world. It's all about inclusivity. It's always innovating. I think it's going to keep breaking barriers.
I bet we'll see it in the Olympics someday.
That would be incredible. But even if it doesn't get that big, it'll always be special to the people who love it.
It's hard to describe. It's so many things at once.
It is.
It's a testament to human passion and perseverance.
So, if you've never seen a roller derby bout, go check one out. You might just get hooked.
Yeah, you might even want to join a league.
Mm-hmm.
Roller derby is for everyone.
Mm.
Embrace the grit, the glamour, the blood, sweat, and mascara.
That's what makes it so special.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. We'll be back next time with another deep dive. Until then, stay curious, stay informed, and keep diving deep